Hey, so I don't have any updates or tips or anything for SOPC or SFAS or RASP or anything at the moment. Today I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my views on chivalry. So if that's not your cup of tea, yeah, go ahead and stop the video now, I guess. But it's a really interesting topic, and I think it needs to be talked about more. So what is chivalry? Well, that's, if you would just think about it in terms of how we talk today, then I think you'd get a very narrow view of what chivalry is. I say the majority of the time I hear people talk about chivalry, they're referring to how men treat women, which could definitely be a part of it, but it's unfortunate if that's all you limit it to. But before I really get into talking about chivalry, I kind of want to set the stage with two thoughts. There are generally, in nature, there naturally comes two types of men. And we in the military and other places, I'm sure, I've heard them referred to as wolf or sheep. You've got the wolf, which is kind of your more violent, more aggressive personality. It's the cares less about rules or even abiding by the law. But in war, they do great. They get what needs to be done. They tend to not run away or get scared from something that's terrible or bad, but instead they kind of push forward and do what needs to be done. On the other hand, they thrive in violence, basically. They tend to be more violent. Then on the other hand, you have a lot of times what's referred to as the sheep. It's the more mild, the defenseless, someone who is not very aggressive or violent whatsoever. These people do very well in proper society. They follow culture, and they do better with rules. But when it comes to war, they tend to be much less violent. They tend to kind of stumble and freeze up when violent action is needed to be taken. And these two extremes, I say extremes, but they are more naturally what you tend to see. Uncultivated, that's what you get, one or the other. And you can argue whether that's environment or whatever. I would say it has a lot to do with environment, but and how you're raised. But it's also, I'm sure there's a lot of factors. I'm not a psychologist. So in societies that don't practice, so chivalry, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Chivalry is the goal to balance, not to balance the two, but to cultivate the two principles in one person. So they are fully aggressive and violent to the full extent, when necessary, while still being able to follow society, to be honorable, respectful, to care for people, to be meek and mild when the situation calls for mildness, but to be violently aggressive when a situation calls to be aggressive. It's not a balancing of the two. It's not, you're kind of half and half. It's, I just totally honked at somebody. That's what I get for driving with one hand. It's a complete building of both principles in one person. That's what chivalry in the medieval times was meant to personify. And I like that. And today in the analogy I used of the wolf and the sheep, there's a third term, and that's the sheepdog. And that's the role that the chivalrous man plays. He's got the ability to integrate with the sheep, mild, compassionate, but he has the strength and the violence of action to handle the wolf, to protect the sheep. To me, that is the principles of chivalry. I do believe that how you treat a woman, how you value, not just a woman, but elderly or children, people that are or anyway, even men that are unable to protect themselves. The whole point is how you value other people, or people that choose not to protect themselves. Some people will choose to, they're fully capable, but they will choose to not take a protective role because they live in a society that they don't feel like that's a concern if they feel protected by their society, so they don't feel like they need to protect themselves. So that's the sheepdog stands between the wolf and the sheep, and it's through this mentality of chivalry that does not come naturally, that you have to cultivate and work towards. If you don't have the sheepdog, then you just have the wolf that takes the sheep. You've got societies where a barbaric society will take over, conquer another society, then they'll become civilized, and another barbaric society will conquer them. It's just violence destroying the weak. That's why it's important to have. I think it's important to understand what chivalry is, and to cultivate it and build it in yourself. But tell me what you think in the comments. If you like this sort of thing, I might keep doing it. If it's not interested, maybe I won't. But